kind black girl gave her only lunch to a homeless man. What happened next shocked the town. The wind was cruel that afternoon, sharp and mean, like the world itself had turned against those with nothing. Outside the faded brick walls of Roosevelt Middle School, 13-year-old Amani stood silently, her hands gripping the edges of her thin backpack as she watched an old man dig through a trash can. He was gaunt, barely clothed for winter, his hands trembling, his skin blistered with the raw bite of cold. He found nothing. She blinked slowly, her stomach already aching from hunger. Her lunch that day was the only full meal she had looked forward to in 2 days. But without a word, she pulled it from her bag. A small sandwich wrapped in foil. An apple. A single juice box. She crossed the street, knees shaking in the wind, and held it out to him with her head slightly bowed. He looked up, stunned. No one had offered him anything in weeks. But Amani didn't wait for a thank you. She just smiled, then turned back across the street. What neither of them knew then was that this single act of kindness, done by a hungry, struggling child, would ripple outward in a way that would shake their entire town. Speech balloon. If you believe even small kindness can change lives, and that second chances are born from unexpected hearts, please like this video, leave a comment, share with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. These stories live because of your support. Amani Jackson lived in a run-down apartment complex on the east side of town, where sirens were more common than silence and the walls of homes were thin enough to hear arguments echo through them. Her mother, Janine, worked 2 jobs, overnight at a care home, and mornings cleaning offices before school hours. Her father had vanished 2 years prior, 1 paycheck away from stability. Since then, food came when it could. Some nights were ramen, some nights were silence. Yet somehow, despite it all, Amani kept a light inside her that others couldn't understand. She smiled when teachers forgot her name. She shared pencils even when she only had one. And every day, she saved a portion of her food for someone else, even when there wasn't enough for herself. The homeless man she had fed that day, his name was Marvin, had once been a factory mechanic before a work accident shattered his spine and left him jobless, insurance-less, and drifting. He had been sleeping under the highway bypass for over a year. Most people didn't even see him anymore. He was just a part of the town's invisible architecture, present but ignored. But that afternoon, something changed in him. A girl, barely a teenager, had looked at him like he mattered. That sandwich and apple gave him more than just calories. They gave him a reason to keep breathing. What Amani didn't know was that someone saw her. Across the street, inside a parked car with foggy windows, sat Mrs. Whitley, the retired principal of Roosevelt Middle School. She had come to pick up her grandson when she noticed the girl crossing the street. She watched in disbelief as Amani handed over her lunch and then vanished back toward the school gates without fanfare. She was stunned not just by the action, but by the humility. So she followed her. From a distance, of course. She watched Amani walk into the school building, her head down, her steps heavy. And something stirred in her chest. The world was full of darkness, but this child, this brave little girl, was still choosing to be light. That evening, Mrs. Whitley made a Facebook post describing what she had witnessed. It wasn't long, just a simple recounting of the moment. No names, just the truth. But within hours, it went viral. Hundreds, then thousands of comments poured in, people praising the mystery girl, offering to donate, to help, to learn from her. Local news picked up the story. Then regional news. Before long, Amani's anonymous kindness had become national inspiration. But Amani herself had no idea. She didn't even have a phone. It wasn't until her homeroom teacher printed out the article and showed her that she realized the world had seen what she thought was a private moment between 2 hurting people. At first, Amani was overwhelmed. She didn't want cameras. She didn't want to be interviewed. All she wanted was for Marvin to be okay. When she finally spoke publicly, it was at a small school assembly. Her voice shook, her hands clenched into her coat sleeves. But her words silenced the room. If you see someone hurting, and you have something, even just a little, you should share it. Because if I was cold and hungry, I'd hope someone would see me too. That quote would be printed on banners across town, on social media accounts across the country. But what came next was even more incredible. Inspired by her story, a local nonprofit organized a fundraiser for Marvin. In 1 week, they raised enough to get him a hotel room for a year and medical care for his injuries. Then came job offers for part-time roles, giving him a chance to work again slowly. But Marvin asked for one thing before taking any position. He wanted to thank the girl who saved him. When they reunited, it was quiet. No cameras, no microphones, just a man and a girl sitting on a park bench, each changed by the other. He handed her a small notebook filled with poems he had written over the past few weeks. On the first page, he wrote, "You didn't just give me lunch. You gave me back my name." Amani cried, clutching the notebook like it was a treasure. It was. Meanwhile, things changed for her family too. Donations came in, food, clothing, even a scholarship fund started by a woman in another state who had once been homeless as a child. Janine, her mother, was offered a better job at a local community center that had partnered with the nonprofit. For the first time in years, they were able to afford heat all winter. But the biggest surprise came from a tech entrepreneur in Chicago who had read about Amani's story. He had also grown up poor and saw himself in her. He called the mayor and offered to fund a youth leadership program in her name, the Amani Kindness Initiative, teaching other kids about empathy, generosity, and courage. Amani was invited to speak at its launch, standing on a small stage in front of hundreds. She wore a donated dress and her grandmother's necklace, and though her voice still shook, it rang louder than ever before. She told them that kindness wasn't something you did to get noticed. It was something you did because it felt right, even when no one was watching. She said that if everyone gave just a little more than they took, the world would shift. People listened, not just with their ears, but with their hearts. If this story touched you the way it touched so many in that town, please like this video, share it with someone who still believes in compassion, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Let's prove that kindness still has a voice in this world. Speech balloon special request. In the comments, please write, "Kindness doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be real," to remind others that even the smallest acts can spark the greatest changes.